Thanks for tuning in. You are listening to Conversations with the Citizen.
This is Conversations with the Citizen, and I am your host, Tia Carol Jones. I'm here today with Monica Gordon. Monica is the Director of Government Affairs and Community Relations at Chicago State University. Monica, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today.
Monica, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Like you stated, I work for Chicago State University. That this was a recent appointment. I also just ran for a state senate seat, the 40th district. So the seat that was vacated by Senator Toy Hutchison, who's now the senior advisor of cannabis for the state. Before that, I was executive director of the Illinois Legislative Black Caucus Foundation. Before that, I was a contract lobbyist for Coy Pugh and Associates. And before that, I come from the field of pharmaceutical and medical sales.
So when did you decide that you wanted to go into politics?
Well, I've always had a passion for politics. I majored in journalism in undergrad. And as a journalist, as a journalism major, political science was something that my area of specialty. So it's something I've always been interested in. So I decided to just take a big risk and go to Springfield to engage more and start lobbying. And I'll tell you, when I went down to Springfield, I fell in love with politics even more. And I never thought that I would run for office. I always wanted to be behind the scenes. My goal was to eventually become an operative. But everything just happened at the right time. I felt like it was what I was supposed to do. It was passion meets purpose. So there, like I stated before, where I live in the 40th district, Toy Hutchison she left the seat. She was someone who I worked closely with, her being a part of the Black Caucus. Also, I headed her Women for Toy committee. And so also there's just a lot of things going on in the Southland in terms of lack of economic development. That it was my concern, and this is no fault to her. This was going on before her, and it just continued. And to her credit, there were things that she put in place, but there was so much more that I felt like we needed in the Southland. And for instance, the lack of jobs in the Southland. So one of the big things, a big part of my platform was the South Suburban Airport. And the reason I was so passionate about I'm still so passionate about the South Suburban Airport. You're talking about 15,000 jobs on day one. So by year 10, that goes to 50,000 jobs. And we're talking about jobs at every skill level. So no one's left behind. It creates a tax base. You probably heard about the extremely high property taxes in the Southland. So there was, creates tax revenue. There was various reasons why we really need this airport in the Southland. And especially now when we're discussing the racial inequalities. And that's one of the things I love about the job I'm at now with Chicago State. Something else that was part of my platform was equitable education. So.
And you did kind of touch on this, but why did you move from journalism to politics?
Well, that was my major. I would say my major was print journalism. So after undergrad, I kind of went into broadcast journalism. I did some internships with WDIV, which is an NBC affiliate in Detroit. Then I came here, back home. I worked with WGN. I started working with people to people. And after that, I went into sales. I went into pharmaceutical sales. And that was based on, I wanted to earn money based on what I put in it. So when you go into pharmaceutical sales, you basically write your own paycheck if you put in the work. And I learned a lot of the skills that I gained. For instance, treating my territory like my own franchise, my own business. So you gain an entrepreneurial spirit, you gain discipline, and I was able to bring that into what I do now. Because I got to Springfield only 3.5 years ago, and a lot of people don't know that. But I was focused and determined and disciplined and intentional, and that's how I'm at where I'm at now.
So what was the catalyst for you running for Illinois State Senate of the 40th District?
I I know my passion. I know my heart. I love to serve. I'm a community advocate, and I'll be that forever. I always advocate for my community. I was born and raised on the West Side. I moved to the Southland in grad school. I went to grad school at Governor State. I'm very committed to my community. And, working for the Illinois Legislative Black Caucus Foundation, I got an opportunity to examine policy up front and see what the legislators do. And that kind of increased my passion. So it goes back to what I stated before about passion meets purpose and things coming together and happening for a reason. And let me say this, although my run was unsuccessful, and I fully support the person who is in the seat, Senator Patrick Joyce. I fully support him. Things happen for a reason. The knowledge and skills that I gained from running that race, the connections, the network, the opportunity that elevates some of the issues that are passionate to me. One of the issues I talked about was Pembroke Township, which is where the Black farmers are located. It's in Kankakee County, and a lot of people, you will be surprised how many people haven't heard about Pembroke Township. And you hear about like marijuana and hemp. Before World War II, Pembroke Township was the third largest manufacturer of industrial hemp. So it's an opportunity to bring that industry back and basically revitalize this area. So I know my passion, and I know what I'm willing to do to help others. And it's not about ego. It's not about having a title. It's about serving others. And I will continue to stay true to that by continue to be a community advocate, continue to fight for Pembroke, to advocate for that South Suburban Airport, economic development in the Southland, and equitable education.
And what did you learn about politics and about yourself during that campaign?
What did I learn about politics? I learned a lot about politics. It's not, everything isn't in black and white. There's a lot of gray areas. I've learned the incredible need to raise capital, and lots of it. Fundraising is extremely important. And I think also, constituents. It doesn't matter how many endorsements you have or who outside your district or who maybe is an elected official or at the state level supports you. It comes down to your constituents and covering as much base with the constituents as possible. So when I tell you what have I learned, I could write a book on the things I learned from running that race, and I'm grateful for that because it adds to my intellectual capital.
Sure.
So I'm very grateful for that. But what was the second part of that question? You said,
what did you learn about yourself during that campaign?
what I learned about myself. So one of the things that one of the things that I specialize in is emotional intelligence, and I learned that there's still area of improvement for my emotional intelligence because there were days when I was angry. There were days when I cried. There were days where I just didn't understand. Me growing up with the friendships that I had, I didn't understand some of the character that I came across with some people. But it's politics, and you can't take everything personal. So what I learned about myself, there's areas for growth with me, was something that I considered myself an expert in, but there's still room for improvement.
And talk to me a little bit about your experience as the Director of Government Affairs and Community Relations at Chicago State University.
Well, this is a new role. I started 3 weeks ago, and I dove right in. I'm very grateful for the team that I'm a part of at CSU. I believe in CSU, and I believe in the growth of CSU. So we talked about before, one of the things that I'm very passionate about is fighting for equitable education. And in today's climate, that's kind of, more people are paying attention to these different inequities in different areas. So my role is to increase funding and bring more funding, because Chicago State is the only public university that's a PBI in the state. And when I say PBI, I mean predominantly black institution. And to qualify to be a PBI, you have to have at least 50% of the student population below the poverty level. And also keep in mind that Chicago State not only has a certain, like I stated, not only has a certain amount of minorities in the school, but also 30% of the student population have at least one dependent. So this is to me, I'm somewhere where I have an opportunity to fight for justice. I have an opportunity to fight for economic justice, to fight for equitable funding in education. I'm very excited. I still have a lot to learn, but I'm ready for it. I'm excited. I've been given the tools needed to do my job, and it's time to move forward.
And how does being involved in politics benefit women when it comes to creating legislation?
Well, I believe that it gives, if you're a woman, you have the perspective from a woman. You have that viewpoint from a woman. So you see things differently. You have different challenges and different experiences. It's just that, just like when you need to make sure to represent the demographics of the country in doing whatever you're trying to do. So I think it's important that women are a part of the legislative process, because when you're creating legislation, to have that woman's perspective or that woman's viewpoint is how you create legislation that works for everyone. We make up a little bit more than 50% of the population. So we need to create legislation that benefits us and sees things from our perspective, not what you believe is what we want.
Why did you start EQ Capital Consulting LLC, and what is the company's name?
Well, I started EQ Capital a while ago, years ago, but I kind of just did a recent reboot. And so EQ is emotional intelligence, and we talked about that before. So when I first started EQ Capital, I was doing emotional intelligence training and assessment, like the 360. So, but now I've added an arm to that, like an arm of political consulting, speech writing. So those are some of the things that, we do at EQ Capital. And I want to continue to grow that company and continue to grow my brand and do what I'm supposed to do here.
And so then what was the company's name, or what is the company's name?
Well, like I said, to increase emotional intelligence training, to make people aware of what emotional intelligence is and how you can utilize it in any aspect of your life. Specifically, if you're running a political campaign, and I mentioned it before, the importance of emotional intelligence, because you never know what scenario, what will happen any day. I'll tell you, on my campaign, every day was different. I was getting surprises every day. Every other day, I was getting my heart broke. Someday you have the wins. It's just a very, it's an emotional roller coaster. And being able to control your emotions, and not just to control your emotions, but utilize them to benefit you in whatever you're doing, I think is a profound soft skill that's needed in corporations. It's needed individually. It's needed in almost any area I can think of.
And who has influenced you the most, and why?
Well, I'm a big fan of work ethic. So I would say my mom, Beyonce. I'm a big boxing fan, so Floyd Mayweather, because he regardless of what people say about him, he works his butt off, and that's why he's the best at what he do. But I've had a plethora of role models throughout my life and mentors that I have today. I would say one of my first mentors would be Alison Payne from WGN News, and Gloria Brown, as well as Karen Drew from WDIV.
And why are they some of your people who have influenced you?
Watching what they do and watching what they went through. I would say, let's start with Alison Payne. In her time, I really looked up to her. I wanted to be just like her. But when I got to know her, I got to see all the challenges she had, and she would tell me all the challenges she had, and that, to me, it helped me to start building a skill of resilience, being able to tackle what's thrown at you. So that was really important to me too. And anyone who takes a vested interest in me or my development, I look up to them.
And what is the best advice you've received?
I've received a lot of great advice, and I'm always looking for advice. I'm a continuous learner. I'm always looking for advice, and I can go back to over 20 years ago to something Alison Payne did for me. So she had a postcard, and she wrote down in order in this postcard, and it had God, health, um, family, career, love. And she put it in that order because she said these are the things you need to prioritize. And she broke down each thing, even the love part. She's like, you date 3 guys. It doesn't have to be anything serious. You get to learn about yourself. You get to learn about different people. Some people like they date 3 guys, but like I said, nothing serious, nothing physical. But it was part of just this organizing your life to make the most out of your experiences and to live an optimal life, and always putting God first, taking care of your health. Family is everything. Putting everything into your career. Like I said, I'm big on professional development, and that's part of EQ Capital too, exploring professional development. And also, love is a part of our life because we want to reproduce and have children and all that other good stuff. And if you don't, that's perfectly fine. I don't have children now, but it is part of the full circle. So her mapping things out like that, it gave me clarity. It made me look at things more in an organized fashion on things I do, into things, how to live in purpose and be intentional.
And how do you measure success?
I think that's an interesting question because it's different for everyone. Happiness has a lot to do with it. Being successful to me is being happy and being content, and make sure you're doing the best you can do every day. But I think also, just like how I had that little order before, there's different things that go into that. Your relationships, your friendships, your career, what you do every day. I'm the type of person where it's not just about, okay, if I'm successful in my career, that's part of it. But also, am I successful in my relationships and my friendships? And that's why I feel like I'm successful, because I have great friends. And don't get me wrong, you run into a lot of bad apples, but when I say I have great friends, I'm very blessed. I feel like I hit the friendship lottery, but that comes with being a good friend too. And I think I got that on lock.
So, before we wrap this up, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Well, I'll leave you with something that I always say, and it kind of it's how I think about everything. I say confidence, courage, and camaraderie. Confidence is needed to go for your goals, to go for your dreams. You have to be confident. I'm the type of person, no one can put limits on me. No one can tell me what I can or can't do. If it's something I want to do, I'm gonna go for it. So that's the confidence. The courage to be able to do that, you get that from confidence. You get courage from confidence. Living your life fearlessly. Whatever you want to do, just go for it. And also camaraderie, going back to those friendships, those relationships, building together. You see sometimes people are competing with each other, or they're, that's, first of all, that shows insecurity and a lack of confidence. But in addition, that's a lack of camaraderie. We're in this together. And so when you have these profound friendships and relationships, and you have this confidence you build together, hence camaraderie. So confidence, courage, and camaraderie.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tia, for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.